Pues nada, hablamos del nuevo disco, has colaborado con muchos artistas y me gustaría saber cómo surgió el proyecto y por qué has elegido a estos artistas.
I understand. Yeah. And actually I had this idea for quite a while, to gather around me some artists who are a source of inspiration to me, linked directly or indirectly to the electronic scene, covering 4 decades of electronic music, more or less since I started to work myself in this field.
¿Y cómo ha sido trabajar con ellos? ¿Cuál ha sido el método de trabajo?
Actually, it has, you know, in days where you have so many albums based on featuring, where you send files through the internet to people you never meet, you never talk to. They just put their voice or a melody lines with a guitar or synth, and you don't talk to them. And most of the time it's for marketing reasons. In my case, it was the opposite. I wanted to meet with people, so I traveled for 3-4 years to meet with people, sharing moments and music with them in their place or in my studio. I mean, really to share DNAs and to share the creative process from the beginning.
¿Crees que esa forma de trabajar hace que el resultado sea distinto, ¿no? ¿Crees que la tecnología que utilizas tanto de alguna manera también ha enfriado un poco la música?
Actually, you know, there is so many preconceived ideas about electronic music, that it's cold and robotic, and actually, which is very interesting for me since the beginning. And his electronic music is very organic. It's like cooking paella, you know. It's we're cooking with frequencies and waveforms in a very sensual, tactile way. And with all the collaborators in this album, we all have this in common: the organic approach to sound. And electronic music is much more than a style like rock or punk or hip hop. It's a new way of composing music, a new way of producing music, and with the idea that music is not only made of notes based on solfeggio, but music is made of sounds, and the fact of cooking sounds, of doing those, I mean, manipulating sounds in a very sensual way is probably one of the most sensual and tactile, almost sexual approach to sound and music. And and we all have this in common. If you take people such as Massive Attack or Air or Moby, we all have this kind of very warm approach to music.
No sé si de esta lista de artistas con las que has colaborado, ¿hay alguno con el que te hubiera gustado trabajar y por la razón que sea no hayas podido?
Actually, when I choose these artists, I choose them really because they've been a source of inspiration to me in lots of different styles as musicians. And actually, it's quite unique to find in the same project people so different as Massive Attack or Moby, Air, Pete Townsend or Armin van Buuren, and Little Boots, Boys Noize. I mean, they're all part of the electronic music family. And I've been surprised that they all said yes. And then I ended by writing more than 2 hours of music. And then I decided to divide this project Electrónica in 2 albums, one in October 2015 and one going to be released spring 2016.
Me gustaría saber, llevas toda la vida trabajando y quisiera saber cómo ves o cómo vives la música electrónica y cómo ha cambiado desde que empezaste hasta el día de hoy.
Actually, which is quite unique with electronic music is evolving with technology, and because technology is evolving so much that we are linked to these technologies, and we are all in commons. We are all in common. All these collaborators. We are all digital geeks. We are actually analog animals and digital geeks, all united by the passion of technology and music, doing music through these new tools. And this project is a fairly good balance between using old analog synthesizers, analog instruments, and also digital softwares and digital synthesizers.
Yo quería saber también qué utilizabas pues en los años 70 para crear tu música, porque supongo que era un trabajo mucho más artesano, porque hoy en día es todo mucho más fácil con la tecnología. Entonces, ¿qué hacías? ¿Cómo trabajabas entonces?
Actually, when I started, I had limitations for financial reasons and also for technological reasons, because you didn't have that many electronic instruments these days. And I think limits and limitations are part of the creative process for everyone. And it's very good to have your limits because you can push the boundaries. And these days, it's the trap in which the technology is trying to sell us, is to make us believe that technology allows you to have no limits. Because since the beginning of our conversation, probably 100 softwares have been invented, and by the end of the day, it will be history. So you have to create your own limits. And which is interesting is actually during all this time, and I learned that with the old collaborators from different generations, it's the same thing. I mean, dealing with an old analog synthesizer or dealing with a plugin and a software these days is the same approach. How to, because by the end of the day, music is coming from you. Whatever you use, a Stradivarius, a clarinet, a Fender, a Moog synthesizer or a plugin.
A mí me ha llamado mucho la atención siempre en Francia que había como una cuna, un nido de música electrónica, muchos grupos muy importantes que han dado mucho que hablar y bueno, como que siempre se ha caracterizado Francia un poco por tener esa fuerza en la música electrónica y me gustaría saber por qué.
I understand. You know, we have to understand that electronic music has nothing to do with America. It has nothing to do with rock or jazz or blues. It's something coming from continental Europe. It's coming from the tradition of classical music. And it's really something that started really in continental Europe, in Germany, France, with Stockhausen and Pierre Schaeffer, Pierre Henry, the contemporary music in the 40s, 50s. Then with people such as Kraftwerk and Tangerine Dream on one side, and people like me. And then people like Air or Daft Punk, and also the Berlin techno scene. So there is kind of tradition coming from classical music, this long instrumental piece of music. It's not the format of a pop song, it's something different. So we have, it's in our chromosomes. Yes, it's the reason why the French scene is quite important and quite relevant. And also we, as Latin people, we have also this kind of impressionist approach to sound. When before you were asking me about the fact that people may consider electronic music as cold or robotic, I think it's not. When you listen to my music, I don't think it's robotic. When you listen to Air, to Daft Punk, to these days with people even like Gesaffelstein, even if you have kind of hard beats, and there is always something linked with a kind of impressionist textures and harmony. We all think, like M83 also, for instance, that the melody is the most important thing in music, and not only the beat. And this is the reason why France has a kind of heritage of fairly rich.
Sí, sí, para ¿Y cómo ha sido trabajar con ellos? ¿Cuál ha sido el método de trabajo?
Actually, it has, you know, in days where you have so many albums based on featuring, where you send files through the and most of the time it's for marketing reasons. In my case, it was the opposite. I wanted to meet with people, so I traveled for 3-4 years to meet with people, sharing moments and music with them in their place or in my studio. I mean, really to share DNAs and to share the creative process from the beginning.
¿Crees que esa forma de trabajar hace que el resultado sea distinto, ¿no? ¿Crees que la tecnología que utilizas tanto de alguna manera también ha enfriado un poco la música?
I need maybe a bit. I think I understand, but.
Do you think the technology that you use a lot coldens the music, and it's colder?
Actually, you know, there is so many preconceived ideas about electronic music, that it's cold and robotic, and actually, which is very interesting for me since the beginning. And is electronic music is very organic. It's like cooking paella, you know. It's we're cooking with frequencies and waveforms in a very sensual, tactile way. And with all the collaborators in this album, we all have this in common: the organic approach to sound. And electronic music is much more than a style like rock or punk or hip hop. It's a new way of composing music, a new way of producing music. And with the idea that music is not only made of notes.
Después, bueno, ya hemos dicho que llevas más de 4 décadas trabajando, has conseguido un montón de cosas, como entrar en el libro Guinness varias veces. Yo me pregunto qué te queda por hacer o qué te gustaría hacer que no has hecho todavía.
You know, I think that for me, the creative process is a mixture of, I would say, frustration and hope. The frustration for every project that I could have done better, and the hope that next time it will be less worse, in a sense. And I think, you know, music, like concert, is a kind of addiction. You don't do this maybe by pleasure. Okay, it's a privilege to be an artist sometimes, but also some of the time you have no choice. During the past 4 years, I was thinking about, I would have spent more or less 80% of my time, or even more, in studios and in front of synthesizers or computers or whatever. So you don't do these kind of things to break records or to try to do more. I never thought about this. I mean, even the concerts I've done with lots of people, they were just experiments, and also doing concert outside, the scale is different. And I feel that there are so many things that I have to explore in the future, that what makes an artist going and following his way is actually to try to get the ideal he has in his mind. I mean, you start doing an album and then you say, okay, but maybe the next one will be better, and then you go and go and go, and you never stop. And this is what I feel today. And especially with Electrónica, I learn so much from other people that I feel like a beginner again.
Y ya para terminar, no sé si nos puedes adelantar algo del próximo trabajo de este Electrónica 2, que van a trabajar pues David Lynch o Hans Zimmer. Pues, ¿nos puedes contar algo?
You know, this Electrónica project is about working with people, as I said, who are a source of inspiration to me, and linked one way or another to technology and electronic music, but beyond also to technology. And actually, if you take people such as John Carpenter, for instance, being a filmmaker, or David Lynch being also a great filmmaker, they have a very strong link with music. John Carpenter is the first, apart from being a great movie director, he's also a great musician. He has composed all his soundtracks on his own, and introducing synthesizers and electronics in Hollywood. For David Lynch, it's also somebody very linked with sounds. I mean, but I was really interested working with David Lynch, with the David Lynch doing sounds for Twin Peaks or Lost Highway. I mean, this kind of very special sound and sound world he is able to convey in his movies. And Hans Zimmer is also coming from Germany. He used to say that when he is doing music, when he speaks English, he has a German accent, and when his music has a German accent. And I feel the same. And he's coming from the electronic scene as well. I mean, he did lots of, he has one of the biggest collections of synthesizers. He's very involved in electronic music. And for me, it was very important to get all these different people all involved in electronic music and technology one way or another. And you know, and also I think this Electrónica project is quite in phase with our times, because we are in times where we are zapping constantly to try to discover things we don't know. And but at the same time, we are able to watch True Detective or House of Cards for 12 hours at home in 2 nights. So we have a kind of relationship with cultural content which is micro and macro. And I think Electrónica is actually conveying this kind of feeling where you can listen to one track and you can discover the track with David Lynch or John Carpenter. And for some people that maybe some young kids don't know these people, and they may discover this because of Armin van Buuren or M83 or whoever. But also I hope that after the 2 albums, it could be also listen like and take like an audio movie for 2 hours and listening to this Electrónica project from A to Z.